January 1945. Eastern France. Winter has erased color from the land. Fields are pale, stretched flat beneath a thin crust of frozen earth. Trees stand bare, their branches sharp against a low gray sky. Smoke hangs close to the ground, heavy, unwilling to rise. This is Holtzwihr, a small village near the Rhine River. To most of the world, it is a name never spoken, a place never visited, a dot too small to matter on any map. But to the men standing here, it means everything, because this is where a line must hold. And if it breaks, there is nothing behind it but open roads, exposed supply routes, and retreating troops with nowhere left to run. Most wars are not decided in famous cities. They are decided in quiet places like this, where no one is watching. The German army is retreating across Europe. Paris has fallen. The Allies are advancing from the west and the south. But retreat does not mean weakness. Here, the Germans are desperate. And desperate armies do not knock. They do not test politely. They strike with everything they have left. A small American infantry unit waits near the edge of a forest just outside Holtzwihr. Their position is bad. The ground is frozen solid, too hard to dig proper foxholes. Their cover is thin, scattered trees, and shallow depressions in the field. There is no natural high ground. Their orders, however, are clear. Hold! No fallback position has been prepared behind them. No reinforcements are expected in time. They are not here to advance. They are here to stop something larger from breaking through. Among these men stands a young officer, 2nd Lieutenant Audie Murphy. He is 19 years old, short, lean, quiet. At first glance, he looks more like a farmhand than a combat officer. His face is youthful, almost fragile. Nothing about him suggests command. He does not look like someone history will remember, but history rarely asks permission. Murphy scans the open field ahead. Visibility is poor. Smoke drifts unevenly across the ground, mixing with fog and cold air. At first, there is nothing, then movement. Not sudden, not rushed. Steady. The first artillery shells land moments later. German artillery, not precise, not carefully walked onto a target, just enough to shake the ground and announce what follows. Explosions bloom across the field, throwing dirt, snow, and smoke into the air. The sound rolls across the flat land, heavy and dull, and then the shapes appear, dark figures moving through the haze. German infantry, not scattered, not disorganized. Lines of them, advancing steadily. Behind them, the silhouettes of armored vehicles emerge low, solid shapes, moving with purpose. Murphy understands immediately. This is not a probing attack. This is an attempt to break through. He does the calculation in seconds. They are outnumbered, severely. Gunfire erupts along the American line. Rifles crack sharply, their sound thin against the heavier thunder of artillery. Machine guns answer, their steady rhythm cutting through the chaos. Smoke thickens, drifting low across the field, obscuring movement and distance. An American tank destroyer, an M10, begins to reposition, attempting to bring its gun to bear. It never makes it. A direct hit. The M10 jerks violently, then stops. Flames burst from its hull. Dark smoke pours upward, thick and oily, visible from far across the field. The sound of battle grows louder, more chaotic. Murphy knows what comes next. If his unit stays where it is, they will be overrun. This is not a matter of bravery. It is a matter of time. Leadership, Murphy understands, is not about standing firm at all costs. It is about knowing when staying means dying, and when dying serves no purpose. He turns to his men. He does not shout. There is no speech. He gives a simple, unmistakable order. Fall back, all of you. The soldiers hesitate only for a moment. They look at the field, at the advancing enemy, at the burning M10. Then they move. One by one, they withdraw towards safer ground behind the forest edge. Murphy watches until the last man disappears into cover. Only then does he turn back toward the field, alone. There is nothing theatrical about the moment. No raised voice, no final glance over his shoulder. It is a calculation, made quickly and accepted fully. Someone must slow the enemy. Someone must stand between the advancing German force and the retreating Americans. Murphy chooses himself. He runs toward the burning M10. Heat radiates from the vehicle in waves. Smoke stings his eyes and throat. The metal creaks and pops as it burns. Mounted on top of the tank destroyer is a .50 caliber machine gun. Murphy climbs onto the vehicle. The steel beneath him is hot to the touch. Ammunition inside the M10 could ignite at any moment. He grips the weapon and fires. The machine gun roars. Its sound is deeper than rifle fire, louder, more commanding. It cuts through the battlefield noise, forcing attention. German troops hesitate. They were expecting collapse. Instead, they are met by sustained fire from a position that should already be silent. Murphy fires in controlled bursts. Not wildly, not blindly. Deliberate, measured. Each burst is placed as slow movement to force hesitation. Seconds stretch into minutes. One man cannot stop an army, but he can make it slow down. Smoke thickens around the M10, swirling in the cold air. Visibility drops further. Gunfire answers from the field. Rounds strike the vehicle, ringing against metal. Murphy keeps firing. The German advance stalls, unsure, reorganizing under pressure that does not match what they see. But Murphy knows this cannot last. His ammunition is finite. His position is exposed, and the enemy is adapting. He reaches for the radio. The connection crackles, weak but usable. On the other end are American artillery units positioned miles away. Murphy begins to speak, calmly, precisely. He gives coordinates, far at first. Artillery rounds land in the distance, explosions blooming through the smoke, shaking the frozen ground. Murphy adjusts the fire. Closer, then closer still. Artillery is unforgiving. It does not know courage. It does not know names. Murphy understands the risk, but he understands something else even more clearly. If the German force breaks through here, the retreating Americans will be caught in the open. So he keeps talking, adjusting, correcting. Shells fall through the smoke. The battlefield dissolves into noise, vibration, and confusion. This is not bravery. This is choosing who lives. The artillery begins to fall in earnest. Not scattered, not hesitant. Shells crash into the open field with violent force, tearing through smoke and frozen earth. The ground shudders beneath each impact, sending shockwaves outward in every direction. Murphy remains on the burning M10. He does not flinch. He speaks into the radio again, adjusting the fire with careful precision. His voice stays level, controlled, almost detached. Closer. The explosions draw nearer. German formations break apart, no longer advancing in clean lines. Orders are lost in the noise. Movement becomes uncertain. Smoke thickens until the field is reduced to shapes and sound. Through it all, Murphy continues firing. The .50 caliber machine gun roars, its steady rhythm cutting through the chaos. Each burst forces hesitation. Each pause costs the attackers time. Time is everything now. The German assault slows to a crawl. What was moments ago a coordinated push becomes a fragmented effort to survive the storm of fire and explosions. Murphy adjusts the artillery again. Closer still. The margin for error is gone. The shells land so near that the concussions rock the M10 beneath him. Smoke and debris swirl violently around his position. This is the edge. One mistake would end it. But Murphy does not stop. He knows the German force can still break through if given a chance to regroup. So he holds. Across the field, German officers attempt to restore order. Signals are given. Shouts are lost to the thunder. The assault hesitates, then begins to withdraw. Slowly, unevenly, as units pull back toward cover. Not a rout, but not an advance. The pressure lifts just enough for Murphy to feel it. He continues firing until the machine gun finally falls silent. Ammunition exhausted. Only then does he climb down from the M10. His legs are unsteady. The cold feels sharper now, cutting through fatigue and adrenaline. Behind him, the tank destroyer continues to burn, smoke rising in a thick column that marks the field like a signal flare. Murphy moves toward the forest edge, where his men have regrouped. They watch him approach in disbelief. Minutes earlier, they had seen him alone against an advancing enemy. Now he is walking back toward them, alive. There are no cheers, no words. Only looks of recognition and understanding. The fight is not finished. Murphy does not pause. He immediately begins reorganizing the position. Men are reassigned. Weapons are repositioned. Fields of fire are recalculated. The defensive line reforms, tighter and more deliberate than before. The Germans have been stopped, but not defeated. Reports filter in. Enemy infantry has taken losses. Several armored vehicles have been forced to withdraw or reposition, but German units remain in the woods beyond the field, waiting, watching. The temperature drops further as the afternoon wears on. Breath turns white in the air. Weapons stiffen, hands numb despite gloves. The battlefield grows quiet, the most dangerous sound of all. Murphy moves constantly. He checks each position, speaks quietly to his men, keeps his eyes fixed on the tree line. He does not sit. He does not rest. He knows the enemy is still there. Then, movement returns. Not a full assault. Small groups advance cautiously, testing the new American line. American rifles answer with short, controlled bursts. Smoke rises again, thin and drifting. The Germans pull back. They try again somewhere else. Again, they are met with fire. Each probe costs them more time. Each failure drains momentum. The German commanders begin to understand something is wrong. This position is supposed to be weak. It is not. They do not know why. Artillery support resumes intermittently throughout the afternoon. Not as close as before, just enough to deny the enemy freedom of movement. The field becomes a place of constant uncertainty for the attackers. Eventually, the German effort falters. Orders shift from attack to withdrawal, not because the assault has failed completely, but because it has become too costly to continue. As evening approaches, confirmation arrives. The enemy is pulling back beyond immediate contact. Murphy allows himself to slow just slightly. The men around him are exhausted. So is he. Now that the danger has receded, pain begins to surface. He has been wounded. He knows it, but he remains upright. There is still work to do. Later that day, American forces cautiously advance to reclaim ground lost earlier. Murphy goes with them. Despite injury, despite fatigue, he leads from the front, moving through smoke-stained fields and shattered trees. German positions lie abandoned, weapons left behind, equipment scattered, signs of a hurried withdrawal. The ground tells the story without words. By evening, the line is secure. Holtzwihr remains in American hands. The German counteroffensive in this sector has failed. For the men who fought, there is no sense of triumph, only relief. They are alive. As darkness settles in, Murphy finally allows medics to examine him. They urge him to be evacuated. He refuses. There are still men under his command. There is still a war. He stays. In the days that follow, reports move steadily up the chain of command. Accounts from soldiers, after-action summaries, radio logs. A pattern becomes impossible to ignore. A young officer who ordered a full retreat, who stayed behind alone, who used a burning vehicle as a firing position, who called artillery dangerously close to his own location, who held long enough for his unit to survive, who then returned to lead a counterattack. Higher command takes notice, not because of dramatic language, but because the facts are undeniable. The position should have collapsed. It did not. The war does not end at Holtzwihr. For the men who fought there, it simply moves on. The front shifts east. The fighting continues across villages, forests, and frozen roads. Audie Murphy remains with his unit. He leads patrols through uncertain ground. He advances when ordered. He withdraws when necessary. He is wounded again. By the time Germany finally surrenders, Murphy has been wounded 3 times and awarded more decorations than any other American soldier of the war. But numbers do not explain what that means. They do not explain the weight of memory or the cost of survival. In June 1945, Audie Murphy stands in the White House. He is 20 years old, still short, still quiet, still uncomfortable with attention. President Harry Truman places the Medal of Honor around his neck. Cameras flash. Applause fills the room. The citation is read aloud. The language is formal, measured, carefully chosen. It speaks of conspicuous gallantry, of intrepidity at the risk of his life. The words are clean. They do not mention smoke. They do not mention isolation. They do not mention the sound of artillery falling closer and closer, but they record the result. The line held. For the public, Audie Murphy becomes a symbol. The boy who stood alone, the officer who did not retreat, the soldier who called artillery on his own position. Newspapers print his photograph. Stories circulate across the country. He is welcomed home as a hero. He smiles when expected. He speaks when asked. But he never embellishes. He never claims fearlessness. He never calls himself brave. When the uniform comes off, the war does not leave. It follows quietly, at night, in silence. Murphy struggles to sleep. When sleep comes, it does not bring rest. He wakes suddenly, alert, heart racing, the echo of gunfire still present in his mind. The smell of smoke returns without warning. The sound of explosions feels close, even in silence. He keeps a loaded pistol near his bed, not out of fear, out of habit, out of instinct formed in moments when hesitation meant death. In the years after the war, Murphy tries to build a life. He becomes an actor. He appears in films. He tells stories for the screen. In one film, he even plays himself. On camera, the war looks contained, predictable, finite. Scenes end, credits roll. In reality, the war does not follow scripts. It does not fade to black. Long before the term post-traumatic stress disorder enters public understanding, Murphy speaks openly about what he carries with him. He talks about nightmares, about anger, about feeling permanently alert, as if danger might return at any moment. He understands something many do not. Surviving combat does not mean leaving it behind. The story of Holtzwihr is told again and again, often shortened, often simplified. A single man, a burning vehicle, an advancing enemy. But the truth of that moment is quieter and heavier. It was not the firepower that mattered most. It was the decision. The decision to stay when retreat was the safer choice. The decision to accept responsibility for the lives of others. The decision to hold long enough for someone else to survive. Murphy never claimed to be fearless. He rejected the idea completely. He said he was afraid, like anyone else. He simply did what he believed had to be done. In 1971, Audie Murphy dies in a plane crash at the age of 45. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. At his request, his grave marker is simple. No mention of fame, no list of awards, no description of heroism, just a name and the dates. Visitors still stop there. Some know his story, many do not. They stand quietly, they read the stone, they walk on. The fields around Holtzwihr are calm now. The village is quiet. Nothing there suggests that one winter day, history balanced briefly on a single decision. No monument marks the exact place where one man chose to stay. Wars are often remembered for their generals and their endings. But they are shaped by moments when ordinary people face impossible choices. Moments when retreat is logical and staying means everything. Audie Murphy did not change the course of the war. He did not need to. He changed the fate of the men behind him. And sometimes, that is enough.